great wonder of The Elder Scrolls Online is that its fantastical sights and sounds can inspire great anticipation. Such vast landscapes must harbor grand adventures to go on and epic tales to hear. Unfortunately, it too often turns out that these are simply illusions of grandeur and not the real deal. Its single-player fantasy experience does not provide the emergent adventuring for which the Elder Scrolls series is known, and its massively multiplayer side is diminished by the game's tendency to punish you for playing with others. The Elder Scrolls Online more or less captures the fantasy vibe you'd want from an Elder Scrolls game at least. The character creation offers plenty of customization options, including 4 classes and a number of familiar Elder Scrolls races. And once you leave the introductory dungeon, the possibilities are exciting. The game's sparse heads-up display and fully voiced conversations pull you into the world, and the quests wisely avoid the kill 20 goblin cliches that plague the genre. Unfortunately, in leaving behind the usual MMOG questing cliches and focusing on lengthy conversations with NPCs, The Elder Scrolls Online creates different kinds of problems. As you move from one place to the next, you hear the same few actors over and over again. That may not have been such a sin if their voices weren't so distinct and recognizable, and if the game's writing focused on developing characters rather than pouring lore into your head. You could levy the same criticism against previous Elder Scrolls games, but where the single-player games focused on letting you craft your own story, this one doesn't offer the same kind of freedoms, and so you move through Tamriel in the prescribed direction, trudging through one long-winded tale after another, instead of conjuring one to call your own. Luckily, many of these tales are intriguing ones. During my travels, I stumbled upon a village with a terrible secret, and had to decide whether to free its residents from their curse, or leave them haunted by the truth. My favorite moments were those in which I saw a story come to life rather than having it read to me from a script. Sadly, grouping with others hurts the game's attempts to immerse you in its stories. You frequently make choices that are then reflected in the world around you thanks to the game's phasing technology. This is a neat touch, until you join other players. You and a buddy might enter a region only to have your teammate turn invisible because he has made a different choice, and thus has entered another instance. In these ways, the game actively discourages you from grouping with others. This isn't to say that the game doesn't provide some opportunities for players to come together, with 4-player dungeons leading the way. It's easy to find a group and get into a dungeon once you've reached the appropriate level. The action is fine, but it never crackles, in part due to the lifeless animations. Elder Scrolls combat has always been somewhat messy, but its real-time nature usually communicates a sense of blade against flesh. The Elder Scrolls Online combines old-fashioned hotkey combat with the action-oriented swordplay to mixed results. You target using an on-screen reticle, and combat timing is confined mainly by your mana and stamina bars, not by skill cooldowns. You can also block attacks and tumble, but this is not true action combat. You aren't limited to any given type of weapon or armor, however, no matter which class you choose, and weapon types have various skills associated with them. There's a good deal of freedom in how you spend skill points, which you spend not just in combat skills, but in crafting skills as well. The Elder Scrolls Online is at its best in its player versus player campaign. Here, the game's 3 factions fight for control of Cyrodiil. When the action heats up, battles are a lot of fun, whether you and your comrades are setting up a line of defensive ballistas at the top of a keep's walls, or going for broke and charging a nearby farm protected by NPCs. Getting to a battle like this requires a bit of patience, however, due to Cyrodiil's vast expanses and quick travel limitations. The Elder Scrolls Online's technical troubles, such as its array of broken quests, can be patched. It's less certain, however, that the single-player and multiplayer sides of this fantastical coin will ever complement each other. That's too bad, because when the stars align, the game seems poised for greatness. Hopefully, The Elder Scrolls Online will one day get out of its own way.
The souls of the damned are my weapon.